Hey friends, it's Strat Game Sloth here, and Server 21 just hit 100 days old. In order to celebrate, I wanted to put together a video that showcases some of the major highlights and events you can expect over the first 100 days of your game. I'm also going to share all the mistakes I made and things I now know that would have made my progression even faster when I was a new player. It's my hope that this helps you all on your Kingshot journeys. Let's dive in. If you follow my channel, you know I love making overly simplistic infographics to explain things, and this Kingshot timeline is going to be no different. We started our journey on Kingshot frantically building up power, forming alliances, and learning how the game worked. Like most mobile games, there was a frenzy of early game tasks and bonuses with a time limit to race through. The map fog lifted from the plains on day 14 and from the fertile land on day 38. There was a mad dash for each alliance to stake out their claim on newly exposed territories. And as the scale of the game continued to feel bigger, new recurring events started rolling, such as Alliance Championships, Eternity's Reach, Sanctuary, and Fortress battles, and, most importantly, fishing. Then, around 6 weeks in, the game really started to open up. The second generation of heroes launched, which gave many more options for free-to-play players to get high-powered orange heroes. You can expect these to hit your server sometime in the 40 to 50 day range, but the exact day varies by server. This is also when red hero gear unlocks for you, but you most likely won't be getting these immediately unless you're spending. Then, after these heroes released, we got our first castle battle 54 days in. It was a wild event because our server still hadn't fully settled on which alliance was the strongest. It was a well-fought victory. Any lingering animosity from the battle quickly dissipated because we got our first generation of pets just a couple days later. Suddenly, everyone was collaborating, trying to understand how they work and how to optimize their stats and growth-oriented abilities. Just as some of the top players on our server started running out of headroom to grow their towns further, the age of True Gold dawned on our kingdom. This broke the level cap of 30 for towns, introduced all new troop abilities, and created a scarce new resource, True Gold. Old events like Eternity's Reach and Alliance Championships continued to cycle. Some old events evolved, like Hall of Governors becoming Strongest Governor, and plenty of new ones were added, like Golden Glaives, Stand of Arms, and Armament Competition. Around this time, the second generation of pets is released, roughly a week after True Gold, and again it varies by server. One of these new pets provides the first combat-oriented pet ability, which adds a new dimension to investing in this feature. It's also worth noting that one other thing happened during this time. On day 74, I posted my first YouTube video. It's been amazing to go on this journey with all of you these last couple weeks, and I'm working my hardest to make up for all this lost time to go back and create guides for all the events and game modes you see here. So thanks for all your support and encouragement to keep making more videos. On our server, we had our first Kingdom vs. Kingdom battle on day 99, after 5 days of preparation leading up to it. It was sort of a nice way to celebrate 100 days by getting to go into another kingdom and try to steal their castle. I also understand that the timing can be different between servers, with some of them becoming eligible as soon as even day 80, so be prepared. And now, as we hit 100, things are not slowing down. Literally tomorrow, day 101, we are getting our Generation 3 heroes. And I also have heard that Generation 3 pets are not far behind either. Plus, a new Oasis Island feature is being teased by the Kingshot developers. So there's exciting times ahead. And now that we've discussed what actually happens the first 100 days of your Kingshot game, I'm going to look back and share 7 tips that I wish I knew when I started to help you avoid the mistakes that I made. I learned many of these way too late in my journey, so it's possible that many of you also playing for 100 days or more may not know all of these. Let's get started. Did you know that when you lose a stamina-consuming battle out in the wilderness, that you get the stamina refunded? Seriously, it's hard to notice consistently because sometimes you get the refund immediately, and sometimes when the troops return home. But I'll show you quickly in this example where you can see the stamina drop by 10, then go back up to 10 after the defeat. This works for both regular beasts as well as terrors, rebel bounties, Cesares, anything that consumes stamina to attack. So feel free to roll the dice on these battles if it doesn't feel like a sure thing. If you want tips on how to win these unwinnable battles, then check out my video on winning unwinnable battles in Kingshot in the description below. Many people overlook this little arrow under their profile picture, and therefore overlook one of the most important windows in the game, the city bonus window. This window has so many useful things in it, and the game never really walks you through it. You get a free rechargeable shield, a counter recon ability you can purchase that prevents you from being scouted, and the ability to purchase multiple troop and deployment bonuses. And in the growth panel, you can get a rechargeable random teleporter for free, and the potential to buy boosts for gathering speed and training capacity. And these last two can come in handy for scoring extra points on events like Hall of Governors. And this gathering speed one is especially important since it doubles your resource collection. It also doesn't have to be active the entire time your troops are gathering, only when they actually reach the resource. So you can potentially get multiple uses out of it if you use it correctly. And that leads us to tip number 3. When I first started Kingshot, I completely underestimated the importance of resource gathering in the wilderness. And it makes sense to some extent. In the beginning of the game, your resource producing buildings are easy to upgrade and provide a lot of resources that are secured, meaning they cannot be pillaged by other players. Gathering resources in the wilderness, however, requires tying up your troops for a while, and you don't have many in the early game. They can't carry much, and the resource nodes are low levels with few resources available. This all gives the impression that resource nodes are just these small bonuses for super active players that like to micro. However, the calculus starts to change later in the game. The resource buildings in town become exponentially longer and more expensive to upgrade, and the resources that they produce also don't scale that much over the last 10 levels, which can easily take a couple of months to build. Meanwhile, as the plains and fertile land become available, higher level resource nodes appear that allow you to gather over 1 million food or wood per hour. With consistency, this becomes a larger source of resources than the resource buildings in your town. Also, when I first started playing, I would skip over the gathering related research projects since I thought they wouldn't help as much as the town generation related ones. However, I should have started reversing this priority after a few weeks into the game, and I didn't realize it then, so don't make that mistake. In fact, resource gathering is so effective that you might want to do tip number 4, which is setting up a farm account. Within the same account, you're able to play up to 2 towns on one server, and this can be a great asset if done correctly. While it takes a little bit of intensity to set up as you play through the early game again, it allows you to have a whole second town that can generate resources by participating in events, getting them from stores, and yes, gathering. And while you send the troops out to gather, you can attack this town risk-free from your main account to bring all the resources back home. There's an entire optimization strategy for farms, and top alliances will even create whole separate alliances for their farm accounts. When I get around to doing a video on optimizing farm accounts, I'll link it in the description below. But for now, I'd highly recommend starting one and experimenting with it to accelerate your game. This next tip is about gem priority and building heroes. When I first started playing, I didn't realize that I should be using gems more aggressively to get heroes. I know it sounds silly, but my thinking was that in events like Hero Roulette or Hall of Heroes, you needed 15,000 plus gems to get something on the order of about 10 shards. Then I started doing the math, thinking about how many shards you'd need to be able to make a hero like Saul as strong as Diana or Quinn, and it just felt so out of reach. What I didn't realize was how easy gems would begin to accumulate the more I played, even without spending, and that I would have plenty of gems to build these heroes enough to meaningfully contribute to my account. Now every time Hall of Heroes comes around, or Hero Roulette, I spend tens of thousands of gems, sometimes even over 100,000 gems when it was Zoe on Hero Roulette. And I didn't feel like it created a situation in game when I was short on gems in a pinch for other needs. And while we're on the topic of acquiring orange heroes, let's talk about tip number 6 of using Mythic General Hero Shards. When I read the description for these, my thinking process was as follows. Well, I can't use them on Helga or Amadeus, and I get a constant stream of Jabel shards for free, so I guess I should just use them all on Saul? And while that logic makes sense in a vacuum, what I didn't know was that the next generation of heroes comes as soon as 6 weeks into the game, and there are some really good ones there. So instead of skipping out on spending gems during opportunities to get Saul and then using the custom orange shards on him, I should have instead been spending gems to get Saul and saving those custom orange shards to build up a critical mass of them, and then use them later on more powerful later generation heroes that are more challenging to get without paying. Now this last tip is one that I think many people don't realize. The bonuses to training capacity and training speed from each of your troop training buildings actually applies to all troop types. Now this one's a little confusing because when you actually look at the details of the buildings, the description tells you that it unlocks higher level versions of that troop type. And thus, it sort of insinuates that the training capacity and training speed listed below also only impact that troop type. But this is not the case. You can see this if you go into your bonus overview panel. There will be a single line for training capacity and training speed, and you won't see any specific ones for infantry, cavalry, or archers below. And I'll also prove this here on my farm account. So if we step into my range, you can see that my max archer training capacity is 460 and takes about 5 hours and 17 minutes time to train. Now I'll upgrade my barracks from level 20 to 21. And now if we look at my range again, you'll see that the archer training capacity has increased to 468, and it takes 5 hours and 22 minutes to train. Now why is this all important? Well, because if you were following advice to prioritize developing your infantry and archer related stats over cavalry, then you might think that you don't need to keep your stables adequately leveled. However, upgrading your stables will then increase your ability to produce infantry and archers as well. So there you have it. You now know what you can expect for your first 100 days of Kingshot, and have a bunch of tips to make the most of them. Of course, there are many other tips, tricks, and hacks besides these 7, so be sure to check out the rest of the playlist linked below in the description. Let me know in the comments your most memorable moments of your first 100 days in Kingshot, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.